Good evening, everyone. My name is Pam Mitchell. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters here in Williamson County. And tonight we have the Georgetown City Council District 7 candidate forum. Unfortunately, Ben Stewart is unable to join us this evening. He notified me this morning. So we will not be hearing from him today. But per the league policy, we continued forward with the forum, and Jaquita has time, and so we're going to follow the structure and get some insight and impressions from her. Because this is the League of Women Voters and we are a nonpartisan organization, I will be reviewing any questions that are submitted from the attendees to make sure that they aren't inherently biased or through an inherent advantage or disadvantage one way or another. And I would ask you to submit your questions, and you can start doing that now. There's a Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to click on that and enter in your questions. And I'll be reviewing those in a few minutes. What else do I need to tell you? I think that might be it. So again, we're going to follow our standard structure, which starts with a 3-minute opening statements. I will roughly time that, Jaquita, but I'm not going to go crazy with the timekeeping since this is all about you right now. So 3 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say thank you to the league for inviting me, inviting us to do this type of work. It's very important. I really feel like the public deserves to know what the candidates believe, what they stand for, what they'll bring into their office. And with that being said, I'm going to introduce myself. I am Jaquita Wilson Kirby. I am married. My husband is a former Marine, a current National Guard sergeant. We have 5 children together. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My oldest is about to make me a grandma, and I am excited. Y'all gonna be sick of me. I have been an educator, Jersey, PA, DC, and in Texas. I ran the Liberty Hill Head Start. I worked for the Head Start here in Georgetown. Head Start is where my heart is and where a lot of my activism will be as a city council member. I am now an equity facilitator. And for those who do not know what that means I am someone who goes to organizations and nonprofits and businesses and trains them on how to make their hiring practices more equitable, how to make their organizations and budgets more equitable. I am also a part of a nonprofit called CTT, Central Texas Together. And we were very integral in helping after the winter storm and making sure we created a mutual aid fund that we gave and assisted people with their water, their electricity, helping them to remove debris, helping them find new homes. And I'm on that board, and it makes me very proud. I'm also a former chair of the Strategic Partnerships Committee here for Georgetown, for the city of Georgetown. Dale Ross appointed me chair to that position, and I did that for about 3 years. I'm currently on our lobbyist committee, our legislative committee, but we're pushing for that here for the city of Georgetown. And I'm just really happy to be here and can't wait to answer the questions. Thank you.
Now I'm on mute. Yeah. So again, I haven't seen any questions yet from the audience, so please feel free to submit those. I do have a couple of questions prepared while you guys get your thoughts pulled together. The first question I have has to do with growth. So one of the points of, I guess, debate or discussion over the last 11 years that I've been in Georgetown has been regarding growth. So can you tell me what your perspective is on growth? What type of guidelines or structures would you use to determine when and how to grow in Georgetown?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest because this is not my first time running for this position. And I was very clear about my wishes for Georgetown when I ran the first time. And at that time, I was really feeling like we were not managing our growth well. we were creating a lot of homes and subdivisions and not a lot of infrastructure, not a lot of ways to support all of those homes that were coming in. And it was causing traffic and congestion and really was I want to say, polluting our town. Now we're doing better with infrastructure. And by we, I really want to say the county has stepped up and helped with increasing the budget for our supports with traffic and our supports with building and sustaining bridges, roads, all of those things. We're going to start laying fiber optic cables because that was a big deal for me. And why this has something to do with growth is because we cannot have people who work for Samsung, who work for Google, whose kids go to school in a district, whose kids go to school online and not have the infrastructure of a better internet system. So I'm glad we're doing these things. However, I still feel it's too much. I feel like it's too much and it's too fast. What I would like to see in place is one, I would like to see subdivisions come in with a plan for schooling, local community schools built within subdivisions. I would like to see a more expansive plan for trees. Right now we do, developers come in and they take a tree, they have to replace it. I'd like to see us maybe increase the amount of trees that they have to replace. And it may not have to be 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, but I'd like to see 1.5, 1.5, something where we're keeping a lot more green space than we are right now. I am concerned about what that's going to do to the floodplains, even though we're very smart about how we're managing floodplains. I feel like the more concrete we lay without also pushing for more green spaces is going to be a problem for our future. And so I'm not as upset as I was when I ran the first time about this unmitigated growth. However, I still feel like it's too much without the taxpayers that are here right now getting more for their bang, for their buck, for their tax dollars, and for the people that are coming in having an expectation that, the internet is going to be great, the roads are going to be great, their traffic is not going to be wild and crazy. We need a supermarket in District 7. Like, these are the things that make the growth not seem so extreme. So I'd like to see us mitigate it a little bit with things that will help us down the line and not really force us to wait till it's here to be like, oh, now we have to fix that. You're on mute again, Pam.
So I will keep you to about 2 minutes on the questions, just because we have some questions coming in. So let me ask you this next question submitted by our audience. We have a tremendous water crisis in Georgetown. We know the city has launched campaigns in the last couple of years about water conservation, but it's my understanding that the city has passed bonds to update our systems. Can you speak to that? Yeah, that, if anything, is a major function of my platform, is that, because that was something that was brought to my attention in the last campaign. I was able to get my hands on maps of our water system and when it needed to be updated and how long we'd taken to update it. And on top of that, we're paying interest on those bonds now. And I have a real big issue with us paying interest on bonds that we could have spent and used. So the issue is, one, yes, we have a water crisis. Two, I'd like to see the bonds used ASAP to update our systems the way we should have done 4 and 5 years ago. And C, I would actually like to see a development plan. I'd like to see a water crisis plan. I think if there's anything that's going to be affecting us outside of these tornadoes that are popping up due to climate change, it's going to be our access to water. So I'd really like to see that utilized ASAP. Trying to stay in 2 minutes. You did good. That was a minute. And just a note for those who've joined us, Ben Stewart was unable to participate in tonight's session. So we, per the policy of the league, we go forward with it. Jaquita is joining us today. Oh, that's a tail. And this is a public driven discussion. So if you have questions, feel free to submit them through the Q&A. And if you'd like to be anonymous, that's fine as well. So please think of your questions and submit them. So the next one I have here, Jaquita, has to do with District 6. What do you think that, and there's two parts to it. What do you think the biggest challenge facing, I'm sorry, District 7. District 7.
I was like, I could probably answer that question, but it's going to be different than what I would say. Yeah.
What do you think the biggest challenge facing District 7 is specifically? So give one or two examples of that. And then what is the city facing as a whole that you consider biggest challenges for the city?
For District 7, again, it's infrastructure. It feels like we're on the back corner, that we're who they get to last. When we're starting to, like before they cut out Forbes Middle School from my district, I was really pushing for an increase in sidewalks all around these elementary schools that go to the subdivisions, that don't stop. Like, I feel like we're missing the danger that happens there when we're not making sure that our kids can get to and from school safely. If they want to ride their bike, if they want to walk. So that's one. Two, for me, is the access to food, supermarkets, a restaurant, things that people want to go to that we don't want to go and have to be in the middle of the city or in Wolf Ranch in order to access those things. And then three is services, doctors, lawyers, dentists, the things that, again, we have to go to the middle of the city for, but every other district has access to it within their district. We're one that doesn't have access in our district. And then four is communication. I feel like District 7 is not being communicated with. We don't know what's happening unless you're like me and you're uber involved. We don't have current representation that is reaching out to the people and letting them know what is happening within our city. So sidewalks, communication. I just blanked out. What was my other two? Sidewalks, communication, food, supermarkets, and services. Yep. I'm sorry.
And
I knew it was in there.
That was District 7. What do you think the biggest issue or issues facing Georgetown is?
I really think it is the water. I think there are some parts of District 6 for sure that is Jonah water, and they're not dealing with the types of things that are happening here in District 7. When I ran the last time, there were a lot of people I knocked on their doors and they were having issues with their pipes that were underneath their homes and trying to figure out who takes care of that. Is that the city? Is that us? On top of the fact, like I said, mitigation when it comes to water is something you want to do now and not later. Look at Flint, Michigan. Look at how much money they're having to spend to replace everything because it took so long to make that initial investment. We have the initial investment. We're sitting on it. Sitting on it is dangerous and it's costly. And it's costly. Let's save the taxpayers some money. So for me, the city total is water. District 7, services.
Great. So I had a question from my list that I'll ask, and then we've got another one coming. So keep the questions coming. And my question is, there's a number of things, my time was listening to city council. There's a number of subject matter or subjects that aren't inherently part of any one person's knowledge. Like there's no way you go into it and know everything about everything. What process would you go through to educate yourself on the issue? And then what process would you follow to ensure that you understand the perspectives of your constituents?
Well, it helps that I'm not shy. So, and it helps that I already know how to knock on doors. So these are two things that I use to get myself updated on things. I have no problem calling whoever I need to call, contacting whoever's in charge of an issue and having a conversation. Now, there are a lot of things you can't do with city council, especially with staff, that could be like deemed problematic, like you're trying to push, in ways that are not good. However, there are people that are experts outside of staff that I can contact and say, hey, we have this water issue. How do you mitigate that in Dallas? Hey, we have this issue with fires and prevention. How are you mitigating that in Lubbock? Like there are ways to get access to other elected officials in other cities and find out what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and seeing how we could avoid that. You had a secondary question. Wait, it was.
Yeah, about reaching out to your constituents and
Oh
understanding
yes,
what they like.
that's right. That's right. And that's I'd like to do quarterly block walks. Like even when I'm not running for office, the reason why I can stay so grounded within my district is because even if I'm not running for office, I'm knocking on their doors. Hey, how you doing? This is going on in the city. What do you think? What are the issues that you have? I'd love to see the city adopt uh, um, uh, an app
Mhm.
that you can do that with and get information from constituents to say, hey, listen, I've been having a problem with this tree back here. They say it belongs to the city. Can you fix that? Hey, this sidewalk's been broke for a minute. Like something where we can have direct contact with constituents where they're not displaced, where they don't feel like, oh, I got to take off of work to come to this meeting to have a conversation with you. My district is a working district.
Mhm.
We're service minded in District 7. So that's why I knock on doors, because I want to be able to catch people where they're more comfortable when they've gotten a chance to get off of work, have a beer, and have a conversation.
Mhm.
So
Great.
that's my
Wonderful. Um, Another question from the audience. What are your ideas to encourage citizen engagement in the city?
okay, that's basically the same idea that I just had. I really think that we can do better. And this is the thing. The one thing that I do love about this city is that I get information, I get an email, I get information in the mail, and I go on the Facebook page, right?
Mhm.
But we're still missing a lot of people. And I think we could do quarterly newsletters to the editor in the Sun, the Austin American Statesman, to the Chronicle. I think we can develop an app. We can take some of the comms budget, develop an app so that when people are fixing things, when there are things that are wrong, they can just upload that information to the app and we can get it directly. I think it would make everything a lot easier. And then we have data that would help us mitigate future situations. I just feel like that's a simple solution that wouldn't even cost a lot of money, that would help us engage with citizens and know that we care about what they think and what they're saying.
Mhm.
A QR code. Ooh, that's even before the app. It's cheaper than even starting up an app, but a QR code for city situations, for bond information, for all of the things that people want to engage in, but just don't have the time. But if you had it, you could just, boop, oh, okay, I uploaded that information. Things like that use technology in a way that's innovative is what I'd like to see engage with.
So let me ask this question, and it's a modification of a question that was relevant, very relevant a year ago, because there was a lot of concern about how divisive the council. So on one hand, you had the council isn't effective if you can't get something passed. The flip side of that is that if the intent is to get something passed, then you may not be representing your constituents as directly. So not everybody agrees. And so I just wanted to ask you it's a two-part question. One is, what is your perspective on the effectiveness of the council today, how well it's operating in terms of that, advocating on behalf of the constituents versus, with quotes, versus coming to consensus as a council. And then the second question is, what would you do in this position to coordinate with your other council members to make sure that you were understanding their perspectives and their constituents' perspectives?
Okay, so I wrote this one down so I wouldn't forget. How are they on the council right now?
Mhm.
Now, I've been in front of the council recently to ask for something that I really did not expect to get. And the fact that there were a lot of council members willing to listen was a big deal to me. It was very, very nuanced, I know, the topic, but I really was shocked at the end to find that they heard my argument,
Hmm.
and they heard the argument of the people who showed up. And so I feel like coming in with common ground is the best way to do this. Like, you start with the love of the city and you move from there. Now, getting things for specifically for my constituents, advocacy, this is what I do.
Mhm.
That's what I do. So I'm going to advocate for my constituents, but I'm intriguing myself with this app idea, this QR code idea, especially if I can't get the city to budget that in. A QR code is something I can do myself
Mhm.
as an elected official to gather information from my constituents. And why that would be important is I want to show up to the council with the data. This is what my constituents are saying they want. You don't have to believe me, but I'm coming as a representative of them. And if 74% of them are asking for this sidewalk or asking for this street light in this particular spot, that's a high percentage of people to ignore
Mhm.
without real good cause. And if there is a real good cause, now I can use that same data to go back and explain to the constituents why we can't do this at this moment, instead of leaving them just wondering who cared, who listened.
Mhm.
So that's my deal. I want to be able to be balanced and fair, but I also want them to know they were heard.
So one of the questions that, again, this was relevant a year or so ago, but I think it's still relevant today, and that is, when you think about your job as a city council member for District 7, and you think about advocating for your constituents, what is your responsibility for downtown Georgetown? So District 7 does not include Georgetown, downtown Georgetown. How would you describe how you would approach balancing District 7 needs with downtown Georgetown?
See, this is the thing though. And again, I'm gonna be real honest. My constituents, my supporters, my people do understand something very clear about me. When it comes to downtown Georgetown, what I understand about downtown Georgetown and the Ridge
Mhm.
is very important to me. How those people are being treated is very important to me, and it's a priority to me. I want to see them supported. I want to see them taken care of. I don't want to see them pushed out.
Mhm.
And I'm going to fight for them like they're mine, because
Mhm.
they are. Now, there are people that do not like that answer. They're going to have to deal with that, because I mean that with my whole chest.
Got it. Okay. Question again, folks that are in our attendees, feel free to submit questions. And you don't have to identify yourself. You can be anonymous if you choose. Can you tell us about the most powerful interaction you've had with a constituent while you've been out block walking? Hopefully it was positive, but it doesn't specify positive.
Let me tell you, I've been getting some positive feedback, and I hesitate to say I'm shocked about it, because I've been doing this for a long time. But like, I ran 3 times before, and when I knock on doors, people are usually like, "Who are you? What are you doing? Get off my door." No soliciting. And this year, people remember me. They know who I am. They're like, "Yeah, I support you." But it's not just that. I think the most positive interaction that I've had, I didn't even get to knock on the gentleman's door. I had parked in front of his house, and then I saw a truck coming behind me. And I was like, "Oh no, am I in his way?" And I got nervous. It was a really big truck. And the guy's pointing at me. He's like, "What are you doing? Are you going to this house?" And I'm like, "Yes, but I'll wait. I'll move the car, whatever you need me to do." And he says, "No." And then he pulls the truck in, and he backs it up into the driveway of the place that I'm about to knock. And I'm like, "Oh no, I've made this guy mad that he couldn't get his driveway. This is gonna go bad." But I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna tell him who I am so he doesn't think I'm some random person. I'm sorry it's taking so long, but this story was big. He gets out his car, and I see, that he's cranky. He's like, what is this? Why are you knocking on my door? What are you doing? And I said, hey, I'm running for city council. I just want to give you some information. Here's my lit, and I'll get out your way. And he takes the lit and he looks at it and he looks at me and he says, this is personal. And I was like, yeah, kind of. I don't know what you mean. He's like, no, you're running for city council and you knocked on my door personally. You're running? And I was like, yeah, I'm running. And yes, I knocked on your door. I still wasn't sure who's gonna be mad or not, because he was like this, And he was like, you're an educator? I was like, yeah, retired, but yes, educator. He was like, and you're a military wife? I was like, yes. He was like, and a mother? I was like, yes. And he was like, those are 3 service things. You're getting my vote. You're getting my vote. I'm taking this in. I'm gonna tell my wife you're getting my vote because you knocked on my door and you're showing me already that you're service minded, and that's important for the city. And I got in my car and I cried because I was not prepared. I was just not prepared for somebody looking at me like this to be like, I'm gonna vote for you. And I was like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It was transformative. It was transformative. So
That's great.
I love knocking doors. You never know what you're gonna get.
I have heard that it's a very
You don't know what you're gonna
incredible
get.
experience. Yep.
Yeah. When you're knocking on doors, people either, upset that you woke them up, or they're like, oh yes, I'll take it. Thank you. So, but this year's been really good.
Great. All right. Well, our next question. Sorry, I have somebody walking by my house. In your opinion, has the city reached the population size to raise the question of transitioning the part-time council to a full-time council?
Yes. They reached that before the census numbers came out. And I'm basing that off of the basic census numbers, not all of the ETJs that we have, all of the things that go into Georgetown City proper. It takes a lot more than a part-time council can do, because then there are things that slip through the crack, and you say to your council member, hey, why didn't you know anything about that? Do something about that. And they're like, I have a full-time job. I show up on Tuesdays and workshops. And you got to respect that, because people have to live, right? But I think just to plan what the next 10 years are about to look like, we should have transitioned. Thank you for that question. I've been dying for somebody to ask that question for years.
I'm having a barking issue here, so my apologies.
No problem.
So the next question that I have has to do with the energy issue that we had a couple years ago, and what you think is still relevant or necessary to address as it relates to, the energy, I'm going to call it an issue, but we ran into. So do you have any thoughts about where that is at today? And if you were to be elected into this position, if there are things that you would want to do to make sure it either gets on track or the track it needs to be on, or, to, mitigate if it's off track?
That one is a hard one, because I think I really would have to be on the council to know. Like right now, what information is being given to me. So I don't know if I could change something, or if I could, unless I got more mitigating information. Do I think, period, we need to relook at these contracts and things that we sign, and for the amount of time that we signed them for? Yes. Do I think we need to really try to shore up how we're receiving energy after the winter storm last year? Yes. Do I think that could all be in our disaster plan and maybe lacking a little bit? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a very complicated issue. And again, to your point about part-time and full-time, it's really hard to be an effective navigator of it without having it part of your even part-time
Yeah.
job. Yeah, got it. Just a note, if you've got questions out there, folks, feel free to submit them via the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. The next question I have on my list has to do with, and you kind of referenced this, is city information and transparency. And you talked a little bit about how to get information from the constituents to you using an app. And you talked a little bit about quarterly newsletters, but that was more of a District 7, sounded like a
Mhm.
District 7 commitment that you would make.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the transparency as it relates to information that the city has? And do you have suggestions on how to improve information going back out to the citizenry?
I really think this is a tough question because nobody wants to talk about budgets. Nobody wants to talk about money and what it takes to be transparent in a city our size. To be as transparent as would be helpful. Um, we share information, in our mailers, in our newsletters and things like that for the city, but I feel like we could be more exhaustive in our search for ways to communicate, for ways to be transparent about things. And I don't think we really are. I'd like to see the comms budget increased. I'd like to see it increase so that we can do some more multidisciplinary, I'm sorry, I'm pulling out my teacher words, ways of communicating with our people, with our constituents. I would love to see more town halls. I would love to see more virtual town halls, not because of COVID, because like I said, people got work. We have a lot of service-minded people that live in Georgetown, and it'd be really cool if they could attend more functions. I'd like to see us do more paid advertising digitally and in the newspaper. And I'm not saying let's do paid advertisement to get something, but to give the information, to make sure people are being reached at all corners. When we do surveys, I always answer the surveys, but I'm always shocked about how many people actually answer the surveys. And that's another thing where I'm like, if we increase the comms budget, we can get our surveys to more people. Again, that goes back to, we could be knocking doors. We could be asking people directly, what are they interested in? What do they want? And working with the school district to say, hey, can we come in and have a table at your open night? Open house for the school district? Why don't we have a table where we're giving out information, where we're talking about the water issue and the electric issue, and we're talking about what we're going to do about permits and things like that. I would have to go to the city and hope somebody has time to talk to me to find those things out. So it'd be great if we start being more creative with the ways that we communicate with everyone.
One of the current discussions at City Council is about the parking garage. And it seems to, I still can't believe Main and Sixth has not been finally killed, because it seems like we keep bringing it up. But if you were on council today and the vote, and I know that they've talked about preferences, but about where the parking garage should be, do you agree with that, with what the vote is? And if not, what would be your preference on where the parking garage would go?
I don't agree with Main and Sixth at all. I don't understand why we cannot level up the parking garage that is across from our courthouse. And I don't mean the Williamson County Courthouse, but the Georgetown Courthouse. And increase that. One, it's in walking distance for a lot of people. Two, we could shuttle people if we had to. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like thinking about people with disabilities is one of the reasons why I understand they want it a little closer. And I get that, but we have ways of mitigating that without putting that huge monstrosity in the backyards of a lot of people. So I'd like to see more conversation. I'd like to see disabled people brought into the conversation. That's what I'd like to see, and talk to them about their needs and how their needs can be met in a more equitable way. But again, I don't understand why we can't build higher for what's next to our courthouse instead of building new
And
downtown.
you talked about shuttles. Do you have thoughts about, there's been some proposals about making the square walkable or three sides of it, making it one way. Do you have any concerns about the safety on the square and or ways to make the square more family friendly, more you know, retail friendly, so that people will spend more time and shop and enjoy it?
I'm not sure. I'm going to answer that with a I'm not sure. I would like to see safety data from the PD before I'd say yes to a one way, because right now, the way I'm interacting with the square, I'm not really having a problem. I'm not feeling unsafe when I drive. And I love the way they do block off during Poppy Festival, during market days. You know, I can still park at the Bank of America and walk over. Like, I'm not understanding this need for things on the square to be so extremely different. And maybe that's coming from me not having inside information. Like I said, I'd like to see a safety report from the PD. And if the safety report from the PD says, hey, we're having a lot of accidents, we're having a lot of pedestrian issues, now I might change my mind. I say, okay, let's look at how we can mitigate some of that. But right now, I can't see me wanting to change anything when I don't have any information that says we're living in a dangerous space.
I'm gonna actually let them out, but let me just ask one more question. Well, and I will then mute myself so you can answer it.
Okay.
Do you have safety data on District 7? And do you have any concerns about safety in District 7?
I don't have safety data for District 7, but I do have some concerns. Some of the concerns are easing up because we've added the lanes on Interloop, but we still have a lot of roads that I think need to be expanded, that need to be supported differently, that maybe even just need lights. Like Sam Houston is starting to get real busy. Westinghouse coming all the way down in the building that's happening there is becoming real busy. And I see we're going to do some adjacent streets there, but I'm always thinking about kids walking to school. Mm-hmm. And Wagner worries me, and Eastview worries me. How children walk to those schools are problematic because the sidewalks don't connect all the way down. Mm-hmm. So I do have some issues with that. I don't know if that's already in our plan to fix fairly soonly, but I think we should prioritize this district because it's the last district that we do things for. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to see some intentionality.
Got it. Another question is around your favorite places in town.
My favorite places in town. I feel like that's an easy question because there are not a lot of places that are easy to go to. Fish City is one of my favorite places. The mm-hmm. library is one of my absolute favorite places. Everybody knows I got married at the library and I would do it again. Nightingale is one of my favorite places. And the Cigar Lounge is one of my favorite places. Me and my husband have date nights at the Cigar Lounge. That is our spot. I used to sell cigars, so I'm a bit of aficionado, even though I'm promising the girls that we're gonna do less cigars 3 times a year. This is very hard, but that's one of my favorite places.
Great, good. I'm just going to encourage the folks again, if there's any questions we haven't asked. I'm getting to the end of mine. Finally got the dogs put away, so I apologize immensely for that. It's highly unusual that they're that crazy. So we'll give it a second on some other questions, and then I will ask. I've only got like 2 left, but there was a corridor study. I don't know if you saw that on Austin Avenue and on 29 that Larry Olson was the primary architect behind. Did you see anything about that at
No.
all? Okay, all right. And it really had to do with thoroughfares, and people being able to get from the east side to the west side of town and through Wolf Ranch. We talked a little bit about traffic on the square. Do you have concerns about the traffic or the throughput around town? And if so, what areas?
Yes. It didn't used to be this bad. Oh man, and I'm talking as a transplant, so I'm sorry to native Georgetown people that I came into, but my daughter does tutoring at Huntington Learning Center, and she's by the new Goodwill. And getting there used to take 4 or 5 minutes from my house, and I'm in Churchill Farms, and now it's 15-20.
Mhm.
And my son, he works at Nightingale, and so getting him to work, depending on the day, depending on what time of day, if he has to be there at 4 o'clock, woo, from my house is going to take 10-15 minutes. But when we pick him up at night, home in 4.
Mm.
So moving around this city has gotten harder and harder. I think the best road for me right now is 1460 into Leander to get downtown. Like I can't go down 29 if I want to get downtown. I have to go around and come out. And for District 7, I think that's why I am pushing so much for us to get a supermarket, for us to get basic services and needs and things, because I think it will ease traffic if we are not all rushing downtown
Mhm.
to get basic services. We want to go downtown and have fun. We want to park our car and go to Red Poppy. We want to hang out at the square. We want to get drinks from Roots. Well, not Roots anymore, but that ice cream parlor I'm going to go try out. We want to be able to do those things, right? That's the fun stuff. But when I got to go to the doctor's office and I'm in traffic for 25 minutes, I want to go to the supermarket and I'm in traffic for 25 minutes just for a supermarket run, just for some milk. That's a lot. That's a lot for people. And people, it's going to start wearing on a lot of people very soon. And I feel like it was wearing on them before. Now that HEB is going to move, it's going to be even harder. Aldi's is not enough. It's not enough, and it's very congested in that area. So yeah, I'd like to see us mitigate that a little bit, but that's why I'd like to see more services on our side, on our district, so we don't have to be part of the problem.
Okay. You mentioned a number of things throughout the last 45 minutes in terms of water and schools supporting the gentrification or supporting the preservation against gentrification, infrastructure, the food desert that's out in the east
Mhm.
side of town, citizen engagement, communication. I'm just going through my notes here. If there was one thing you were guaranteed, if you're elected to District 7, there was one thing you were guaranteed you could get done. One thing.
Oh,
I know. All right, two. I'll give you two things.
the water's first.
Okay.
If I was guaranteed to get that water done, that's what I'm choosing.
Okay.
And I know that's for everybody, but it's going to benefit us in District 7 more than anything else. Secondarily would be the supermarket.
Okay.
I think it'll relieve a lot of stress on our city and the traffic that goes to that HEB there. But it'd be the water. It'd be water.
Yeah, I know. Rubber meets the road time, or whatever. Water meets the line. So unless there's any other questions, which I don't see, then I'd like to give you a couple minutes for a closing statement. And normally, again, Ben would be here, but Ben wasn't able to be here. He informed me of that this morning. And this, this is very intentionally not a debate, it's a forum, but I think this is a good opportunity to say why you. What is it about you that is different, unique, that would is uniquely skilled or talented for this position? And I don't want it to make it debatey because Ben isn't here, except this is your opportunity to make sure that people that are on this Zoom or listen to this video, watch this video later, understand what you bring to the table. So 2 minutes for that.
I think choosing me is the smart choice because my passion is unmatched. You're not going to find a better, stronger advocate for this city and the people that are in it. I am not playing when I say I want everybody in my district to win. It's not a win just for me. I want them to win. I want them to feel secure. I want them to feel proud of our city and their representative. And when you elect me, there's nobody that's going to fight harder, that's going to go to the mat for your issues than I will. And I can guarantee that. So that's why I'm hoping on May 7th, you pick Chiquita Wilson Kirby, write-in candidate for District 7. Thank you.
We did have one more question that came in. Do you mind taking it? Okay.
Yeah, got time. Yeah.
So good evening. Thank you for providing such easy access to this forum. New resident of 7 months to the state of Texas in Georgetown. A little bit about my background. I'm a Black male. I'm retired former educator, law enforcement officer, honorably served military veteran, volunteer. Yeah. Do you have a brother?
Thank you for your
You might have a brother.
service.
I think you get a brother. My question is, what are you doing to encourage retention of new residents? And where can I find the Cigar Lounge?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna answer the second question first. The Cigar Lounge is next to Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like there is what do you call this thing? Like a mini mart? No, not like, I don't know, but it's Dave's Pizza Work here,
Okay.
and then Zatakai Cigar Lounge next to it. There's also a barbecue place and there's a gym, and they're all together in a strip mall. It's in a strip mall. I'm sorry, I lost strip mall. And retention. I feel like people stay here when they feel welcome. And the whole point of me running was so that somebody that was on that council understood what it's like to move here and not all the way feel welcome, but still push through and say, hey, I want you to see me. I want you to know that I matter and how I feel about this city, even though, I just got here. It's been 10 years now. But at the time, even though I just got here, that this city and how it prospers matters to me. So how I would go about retaining and keeping people here is by showing them the love that a lot of people showed me when I didn't feel welcome. Making sure that they know that they have a representative that is about them having a comfortable way of life, whether they're retired, whether they're new parents, whether they're single people just starting from scratch. All walks of life deserve to be seen and feel welcome in this city. And I want to be the representative that makes sure that's a thing. Please check out that Cigar Lounge. It's gone. Sorry.
But a little tidbit. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to officially close this, then I'll stop the recording. But I do want to thank you, Jaquita, for joining us tonight on behalf of League of Women Voters.
Wait, we have one more. I don't know.
Oh, wait, it might just be a
Thank
comment.
you for taking it. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana.
So yeah, thank you so much for your time and sharing your perspective. It's been very valuable. I want to thank the attendees for joining us this evening, and get out to vote, take a friend. This is really key. And again, the league is nonpartisan. We don't support candidates, especially in partisan type races, but in general, our feeling is we don't really care who you vote for. We just want you to vote. And if you're informed, then that means it's going to be a better outcome. So thank you for taking the time and listening to us tonight. So with that, I'm going to turn off the